Does it work the same?
Yes, it's more of an API, yes. So now that, first of all, I'm glad that you're excited about the voice API because they form the backbone of this second part. So after you've learned how to use our APIs, our communication APIs, you realize that you can even add AI inside them. So now you can make SMSs be automated from AI, phone calls be automated through AI. And that brings us to Google AIs, that is Gemini, Google AI tools, that is Gemini, Vertex AI, Model Garden, and agents. So quick one, Vertex AI, it's the platform where you get to build, train, deploy, and manage AI systems. All this will be covered in detail in the subsequent modules, so I'm just mentioning them real quick. Where you get to access this is through this link. Again, for you to access this collab, it's in that link tree that I shared earlier on. The place to access Model Garden. Model Garden is like a marketplace for models. The link to access that is herein. Then there's Gemini AI, which is Google's family of AI models. The link to access it is here. And agents is things you build to achieve certain tasks. So for example, if you are building a smart call center, it will exist inside this agents bit. Yeah. So I'll jump all that. Yeah. So for example, just a bit on the agent because it's what you're gonna build mostly. Agents can understand user requests, so basically they can understand when a user says, okay, hey, I need an issue. Hey, I need something sorted out in my bank account. Yeah, an agent can understand that, takes it context, break it into steps, and maybe decide to route some of those requests to maybe a human agent, or some of them it just sorts out directly. Agents can query databases. You can make them query databases. You can make them maintain memory and context. Yeah, so things like that. Let me jump real quick. So for example, say you're building a customer support AI. So Vertex will be the platform that handles your environment, permissions, deployments. Model Garden is where now you choose specific models. Say you say Gemini 1.5 Pro. Gemini, which is now the what you're going to use a lot here, it's going to interpret now the customer message, the customer request. And now your agent down here, the last part, can call now your CRM API, retrieve user information, draft a reply, update tickets, and maybe if weather is important, even check weather. So how you get started is by, if you're using Python, you install the SDKs required. So here I am installing Google Cloud AI Platform and Google API Core and Vertex AI. Some of the SDKs can do what others can. So yeah, so it's a matter of choosing what you want. There's also equivalent for them in other languages on NPM, basically there. The next thing here I'm doing is setting a project, and I'm using the Google Cloud CLI. It's called G-Cloud. Again, this one you'll test it on your end, so I will run it, but due to the interest of time, I won't wait for all responses to return because they need me to, okay, let me just do it right here where you're seeing. So when I run this, it generated a link here. When I click on this link, it's going to take me to the spot where I'm signing in. The next bit is that it's going to generate for me a code. Continue. So there's this code that has been generated. Copy. After I copy it, I come and paste it inside here. Then click enter. The credentials have been entered. Diagnostic says what says, oh, yeah, I've exceeded my quota. Yeah. Yeah, so let me run this again. But basically you can run this on your end, especially if you have the credits. And yeah, you'll get to experience it better. Let me use a different account. I hope it will accept. If it fails, we are going to try it in your individual. Yeah, that's gonna fail. Yeah, it failed. It failed, but basically, okay. Let's just skip that. So basically, that's how you set up, and you can do it. You can try it on your end. So I'll jump this part because it depends on what I've done up there. And instead, I'll go to an alternative way that you can just use the Gemini API directly. So for you to retrieve a Gemini API key, you go to Google AI Studio, which the URL is aistudio.google.com. And then down here, in Google AI Studio, down there on the bottom left, there's a button that says Get API Key. So you click it, and it will take you to this current page. You click on Create New Key. You give it a name, something, and then you select an existing cloud project, or if it doesn't exist, you can click on Import and create a new project. And once you've done that, you get an API key. So for example, the one I got right now is this. So you copy this API key and come run it. No, before you run it, come to this section on secrets, create a new entry called Gemini API key, paste it in here, and after that, now you can run this code. So what's happening in this code, I'm basically importing the Google Gen AI library, and then I'm importing the API key, the Gemini API key, and then I'm setting my default model to be Gemini 2.5 Pro. And here I have a method called Ask Gemini that takes in a prompt. Takes in a prompt and takes in a model. I've basically wrapped it inside a method so that I can reuse it. But the actual important code here is this one, client.models.generateContent, which is taking a model and a prompt. And then it returns a text. Now, the reason I'm getting this OS is not defined error is because what I've done here. So I can just choose to remove that OS bit, because if I don't, I'll have to debug the entire thing for now. So we are running it, and it takes time, but wow. So as it generates, let's go down here. So basically here, almost the same logic. You're importing Vertex, initializing using the project ID. Project ID was involved in that bit there. You're specifying the Gemini model. You're doing an auth login. You're generating content by passing in a prompt and then printing out the results. Now, there are basically different ways to do this. You can it even supports streaming. Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Everything that follows down there is just an example of redoing the same action. Let me see. Yes, it has responded. So I prompted, how do I get started with Google AI Studio and Gemini? And then it ran and gave me this response, basically a long instruction. So that's pretty much it. I'd love to see you do the same. And I'll give you one last challenge. Now I want you to combine Africa's Talking APIs with Gemini. So I want you to attempt to top up. You know that secure top up challenge? But now this time, you're triggering it through an inbound SMS. And when the user receives that, when your server receives that request and checks whether the user deserves a top-up, it responds now with an AI reply. Okay, let me repeat it. You're triggering this service using SMS, the secure top-up using SMS. Inside the secure top-up, we had this logic where you're checking whether a SIM card has been replaced. If it's been replaced, you don't send airtime. If it has not been replaced, you send airtime. Now, if someone who wasn't supposed to receive airtime, you respond to them using an AI reply. Make sense? Amani okay, good. So that's pretty much it. Any question before I invite Ian?
What is decimal literal? Decimal literal, literal.
Decimal literal. Sounds familiar. I won't lie to you. Sounds familiar, even Peter. Maybe from the audience. Decimal literal. I've seen that somewhere. No, I know who will answer. Decimal literal. You guys should know who I'm giving the mic.
Maybe it's just a thought. I think it's the number of decimals you're supposed to use in a given. Let's say if you're doing currencies, let's say you only accept up to like 4 decimals, so you can say you have a decimal literal of 4 places, something like that, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Nice. In case you didn't know who that was, that's our backend engineer. Yes, and he's going to take you on the next session. Your question is answered? Nice. Anyone else with a question? All right, that's it from my end on module 2. Please welcome the next speaker, Ian Kidungo.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dagi, for such an amazing session. Hope you all have learned a lot. Has anyone learned anything? You can raise your hand if you have learned something new. Awesome. So my name is Ian. I'm a backend software engineer at Africa Stocking. And my topic for today is basically building, securing, and deploying full stack applications. So by full stack applications, I mean combining both Africa Stocking and Google Gemini. So that's what I mean by full stack applications. So by combining those two technologies. So my talk is mostly going to be on backend. Does anyone do backend over here? You can raise your hand. Backend people. Can see a few hands. Yes, amazing. What technologies do you use? I'm curious. Yeah? Django. Another one? Django. Another one? Rust. Amazing. And Go. Node.js. That's nice. So for my talk, it's going to be more of agnostic. You can literally use any language that you want. So you can directly interact with an API, either directly via HTTP, or if you like using SDKs, that whole logic has been abstracted for you. You can use different SDKs. So you have a couple. Just check out our GitHub. You have Python for the Node people. We have Java. Anyone who does Java? Nice. Java people. C#. So there's C#, Node.js. Check out our NPM packages. Yeah. So, but mostly this is going to be a quick walkthrough on how you can use or build production-ready multi-channel AI applications. So now we are mostly trying to bring AI into the 2G space. So the 2G space has mostly been neglected, but so since we can't, but with this new age of AI, we can breathe some new life into it, make it more interactive, bring more experiences into it. So that's why we are combining Google Gemini using Africa Stocking 2G technology. Hope you're excited about that, because it's really, really exciting. So hopefully you have access to this code lab. If you got the email for this event, it's somewhere in those links. That's module 3, AT module 3. That's probably module 9 somewhere there. So for this course or mini talk, we'll mostly go in. So, because if you look at our products, which ones do you think would or marry well with AI? So you can raise your hand. So like based on our products that Dagi has shown you, we have a couple of products. So which product do you think will best fit to be combined with AI? Amazing, amazing. That's really, really amazing. That's correct. Any other? Yes? Maybe.
Or verification, like or fraudulent, let's say, detection, of which we can verify if the business is legit, the one that's applying for the SMS or the talk or the calls. If it's legit or if they want to use the platform to scam people, can use AI to verify?
That's actually a nice option. Another one? Oh, you can go again. You can pass the mic around. Just pass it.
Fine. So the answer would be in the USSD. The USSDs that we The USSDs that we use have a default way of asking questions. Press 1 to respond. If we go intelligent, then I can be able to just write a text and just ask my question, and then it will drop on the other side. When it drops on the other side, your Gemini AI will be able to interpret my question and then respond back, as opposed to reply with 1, reply with 2, reply with 3. I can definitely be able to ask questions in normal language, and natural language can respond back. Thank you.
That's correct, but for USSD it's a bit difficult. So for your case, that's mostly 2 SMS. 2 SMS, correct, yeah. Any other try?
I have a question. Could you please share the document link? That one, yeah.
This one?
Yeah, yes.
It's actually really easy. Just go to community.africastocking, then scroll to today's event. So when you scroll to today's event, just scroll down to these Africa Stocking modules. Hopefully you can see them. So let's take, for example, this one. It will link you to this Google Drive. So you will find it as AT module 3. So all of the modules have been linked there, so you can find them easily. So just go to the event link for today. You'll find all the links over there. Hopefully that has been cleared. Just find it there. Let me just go back really quick. Nice. So I think a few examples have been mentioned. And we'll focus on majorly 2 that have already been mentioned. So he's mentioned one on IVR, voice. So you can easily integrate our voice product and use Gemini. And then another one, you can use SMS. So those are directly 2 services that you can easily integrate and use Gemini even today, really fast. So what makes this unique? So we'll cover some few examples how you can build this. So you can combine multi-channel AI, so that's voice and SMS. So we look at how you can architecture it, combine Africa Stocking and Gemini, and finally how you can deploy it and have a full stack application. And then we'll have some few examples on how you can security and how you can deploy it using, what is it called? Google Cloud Platform. So if you haven't set up your Google Cloud, so that one was part of the prerequisites, setting up your account. So hopefully from that email you did that. So there are a few sub-modules here. So number 1, so architecture and system design. So if you're working on a backend system, the first thing you need to do is design your system. So before doing anything, design your system, how things will flow, create those architecture diagrams, those DB diagrams. Hopefully you have learned that in campus. So those UML, all that, flowcharts, set that up so that you can easily pinpoint this is where data is coming from, this is how it's flowing. Hope that's understood. So, yes? So if you access it via the phone, it's going to be a bit mangled. So I'd recommend you access it via desktop or a laptop. It's going to be much more easier, because when you access it via the phone, it's a bit, because it's accessing the Google Cloud platform. So hopefully when you access it via the, because if you look at this, is it? Here it is. So when you click on it for the first time, this one has redirected me. Where is it? So you can see if I click it once, or maybe if I click. So it's when I'm using my laptop, it's opening it up on a code lab. So I'd recommend just use a laptop or a desktop. Yeah. Okay, so number one, you've said we'll design the system, then we'll cover some few security best practices, then we'll look at how the voice AI implementation will look, and also the SMS AI implementation. Then we'll cover something minor about API versioning and lifecycle management, and then finally, how do you deploy it? And then so what happens next? You have deployed the application. You need to know how people are accessing your system. You need to know, you need to access your logs, view your logs, how your system is processing information. That's where monitoring and logging comes in. So that's a production readiness checklist. Yeah. So in this first part, hopefully it's visible. So we want to understand our system architecture. So our system architecture is mostly, so we look at a few examples or a few parts. So over here we have the presentation layer, how people access your system. So how people access your system is either calling your system, sending a text to your system, then what happens next? I think Dagi has mentioned something about webhooks. So webhooks are just basically how information is relayed back to you from Africa Stocking. Hopefully that's clear. So when someone calls your system, do you know what happens in the background? So giving an example, can anyone, I'll just explain it, then if you have any questions, you can ask. So let's say I have a number that was issued by Africa Stocking. So I'll call that number. So maybe it's a Safaricom number. So it will go directly to Safaricom. Safaricom will relay back to AT. Then AT will find your webhook or your callback that you set on the dashboard, then send it to you for processing. So you can either perform any action that you specified. So we'll reach there and you'll see how that works. So over here we have covered the presentation layer, how your people access your system. So it can either be via voice or via SMS. So this one is optional for the moment. Then we'll move down to your application layer. So all these events are now, so you will move from your presentation layer to your application layer via webhook events. So you will have your backend system whereby you will access it via HTTP. That's why I'm saying it's supposed to be agnostic. You can build it with any language, any technology, send it via a HTTP handler. So when you receive a webhook, you need, as Dagi said, you need to process it as quickly as possible. You want to delegate the processing to a different part of your system. So you just need to respond back that you have acknowledged, you have received the webhook, now you are processing unless you need to relay back information. So that's why we have our webhook handlers, and then we have our session manager. So our session manager basically is multiple people are accessing your system. You need a way of managing the context of each individual. That's why session manager comes in, whereby you need a way, so person A is accessing a different part, person B is accessing a different part. You need a way of managing that whole context so that you don't send wrong information to a wrong individual. Then we'll come to part of your business logic. So if you're building, as you said, an example of customer care, so your business logic is mostly, how do I help customers? Someone is calling in for an issue, how do I? So the steps that you follow in your business. So if you want to set up an agent to do that, so that agent will help processing the customer's query until it reaches a point whereby it can no longer be able to help, and then delegate it to a human person. Yeah. So that's part of your business logic. So when you think through your business logic, you create it as code, and then that's how you interact with it. Then the next bit is the API calls. So over here we have, we are interacting with two different APIs. So we have Google Gemini AI, and we have Africa Stocking API. So we have, so it has text generation, context aware, and streaming. And then for Africa Stocking, we have outbound calls, we have incoming calls, sending SMSs, incoming SMSs, voice control. We'll cover most of those. And then, okay, and then in our data layer, we look at how do you persist this information. So you have different databases you can use. All this is open. This is not like set in stone. This is part of what I designed. So it doesn't have to be this is what you're using. So you can use Postgres to persist your sessions. You can use Redis for caching. And then for cloud storage, so as part of his example, whereby a customer is sending in his or her query, so you need a way of recording those audios, right? And then you need a place whereby you can store those audios. So you can use a platform like Google Cloud Storage, or you can use S3, any platform that you can store those recordings. Yes, so hope that has been clear. So that's the whole journey of architecting your system. So from the presentation to the application to the integration and finally to the data layer. So I'll quickly cover what is it called? The voice AI system design. So for this, there are 3 examples that I came up with. So actually my example is a customer care service. So for this, we have 3 approaches. So number 1, we have IVR. So does anyone know what IVR is? I think I've already, yeah? So it's interactive voice response. So this is basically when you call a system, like when you call Safaricom, the response that you hear immediately. Welcome to customer care, do this, do that. So that's number 1. So traditional IVR. So number 1, that's traditional IVR. So number 2 is call conferencing. Has anyone used call conferencing? Or do you know what call conferencing is? Yeah, you can pass the mic.
Okay, conferencing is where you can call 2 people at the same time. They say, and have a conversation, not more than 1 person, or more than 2 people, more than 1 person or more than 1 people. Okay, I don't know the grammar. But at the same time, and have conversation among you.
Accurate. That's actually, has anyone ever used it?
Yes, I have used it.
You have used it? Anyone else who has used call conferencing? Amazing. So, yes, add someone. Or have you ever received a Google Meets link and then you have seen, if you want to join that same call, you can call that number. Dial in. You can dial in via calling. That's another way of call conferencing. Okay, yes. Amazing. So that's number 2. So you can use call conferencing to add AI within that same call. And then number 3, we can use SIP. So SIP is a session interaction protocol. So it's part of the technologies we use in voice. If you look at our documentation, it's somewhere down there on the voice. Yeah. So this one is a way whereby you can directly stream to Gemini a person's voice, and then you can easily have like a conversation with Gemini. So that's approach number 3. So maybe there are a few examples or a few approaches, but those were my initial 3 approaches. I'll show you a few examples or a few diagrams on how you can do that, hopefully to just make it clear for everyone. Hopefully my screen is still sharing. Yes. So let me see if I still have that. Yeah. So we'll first of all just look at the simple option over here. Or we'll just cover how that process flows. Okay, so number 1 approach is the turn-based approach, or the traditional IVR. So how does that work? I'll call a number that say your business has provided me. So when I call that number, so that's probably an AT number. So it will send a webhook to your. I hope the concept of webhooks was clear, because that's what I'll be using mostly. So if it wasn't clear, you can raise your hand and I can really brush through it quickly. Was it clear? The webhooks that Dagi mentioned? Okay. So my version is pretty much what Dagi had, but I'll try and explain it really quick. So as Dagi mentioned, so there are ways of receiving information from a server. So you can either do polling, or you can either do push or pull. Yeah, or pull. So push events is basically I set up a URL whereby in case an event is triggered, something is posted there. So I don't have to keep querying continuously. I'm just expecting, so in case something is triggered, I expect an event and I have my way of processing that. So that's pretty much that flow. So the way it works is setting up your post webhook event, a URL callback, and then when any event is triggered, post event is sent to that HTTP callback, and then you process it on your end. So I'll quickly show an example. So you can look at this example over here. So I hope most of you have done or have heard of REST, request response. So REST. So sending a REST with HTTP, GET, so all those CRUD information. But for this example, this is a post request. So the method is a post. Here is my URL. Okay, let me just. So this is my URL, callback /voice, and then this is the information that's being posted. That this is an example. This is the information being posted there, and then how do I respond back to it? I think a diagram will quickly explain that. Hopefully this diagram is visible enough. So over here we have a customer's phone number, a customer's phone. So they'll make a call. The call will go to Africa Stocking Voice Gateway. Then we'll quickly, when we receive that call, we'll validate and ensure that this is actually will validate it, check your credentials, and then find you based on those credentials. Then send it to your webhook. So we'll send it to your webhook for processing. So when you receive that webhook from your end, you will respond to us via XML. So XML is a markup language whereby you quickly, so if you, Dagi mentioned HTML, so but it's pretty close to HTML, but a bit different. So if you have worked with like SOAP request, so it's pretty much that same design. So respond back with an XML. So with this XML, so you can provide or combine multiple actions. So let me just minimize it a bit so that it can be clear. So we've sent a webhook to your server, then you respond with an XML to Africa Stocking. Then Africa Stocking will respond, will take that response and forward it to the customer's phone. So programmatically. So since voice is dynamic, you can respond with any text that you want. So we'll take that response and forward it to the customer's phone. Then based on what you provide, so you can either welcome them to your system, so in case, and then ask them if you have a query or you have an issue, send a recording. So I'll show you those features really quick. Then send a recording, the customer will speak, then we'll receive the recording. So when you receive the recording, when the recording is complete, we'll come here, get the recording, then receive the audio. We'll download the audio from the recording from the audio. Then over here we have a session manager. Basically, it picks information from that recording to help distinguish different users. And then we'll quickly send that audio to Gemini. So over here we have Gemini. Gemini will process our audio. So then we'll receive a response from Gemini, then relay back that information again to your users. So we have number 14 over here. This is the audio response from Gemini. Then we go to number 15. We can store that audio in our storage file over here. And then we can either persist more information about the call in our session storage or even in our Redis. Then we'll respond back to the user and generate more XML back to the user again. So that flow continues until the call terminates. And I'll explain that really quick using another diagram. So basically that's the same flow. Number one, customer makes a call. We receive that webhook, send it to your server. Then your server will respond with XML. So this is the same structure of XML. So this is the response. So in the response, what did we provide? We told the customer, welcome, how can I help you? And then we expect a recording from them. So we invoke the record call action. Clear, I can zoom in a bit. So you can create dynamic experiences using these voice actions. So number one is the say action. So the say action basically is providing text for our API to speak to the user. So we have a text-to-speech platform or an API whereby when you provide text to us, we convert it to speech and play it to the user. Then number two, we have the play action. So you can provide, so in case you want to provide a hold music, so you have a long queue of people waiting and you want to play for them some music, you can provide an audio URL to that file and you can play it to them. Or if you want to play for them an ad, you can provide if you have called a bank, you hear them playing some music most of the time. So it's mostly an audio file. So that's our play action. The get digits, hopefully this was clear, how you receive input from a user. Then there's the dial action. So in case you have ever called a customer care person, and then they'll let you know, like, we want to transfer you to a different department. So have you ever experienced that? So that process is, they are now dialing another number within that same call, transferring you to a different person. It's part also for the redirect. So they can dial and transfer you. So then there's record. We'll see that. So this is a way of recording audio from a user. Then there's NQ. So in case you experience like a huge queue, a huge influx of people calling your system, you can queue them and then dequeue them programmatically. So you can either let them know like they're number 1 or number 5 in the queue, and then this is the wait time, something like that, for them to be patient. Then redirect is how you can transfer your logic to a different part of your system. Then there is the reject action. So in case you want to end a call, you can either, or you don't want to pick it, you can reject a call. And then there is the call conference. We'll see them, a few in action. But you can check out our documentation. All of these have been documented and they are really clear. In case they're not clear, you can always reach out to us and we can expound. Maybe you can pass around that mic. Excuse.
Where does the voice ticketing, the bank voice ticketing falls under?
So, as I said, it's an API is dynamic. So you build out experiences the way you want. So that feature is not here. So that ticketing feature can be like a queue. So in case you come, let's say if you walk into a bank, you pick the service that you want and get a ticket, right? So how it happens can be when that system is reading out the tickets in the queue, it's basically picking the number and playing it. So that's how it works. So it's dynamic. You can build out experiences the way you want by basically combining multiple actions together that you want. So you can combine all of these actions to come up with a robust system that you want. Okay. As I was saying, when a customer makes a call, you receive it, then you process it, then you'll respond back with XML. So we'll let them know, we'll welcome them to our system, then ask them how can we help them, then ask them to record an audio. So in this record action, so you can put a maximum length of like 60 seconds. Then in case there's no input after 5 seconds, you can either terminate that or either replay it for a user to record again. And then when they finish, you can either, when you finish, press hash or whatever, or any key. And then the callback URL is where you'll process this audio when it's completed. So now what happens, this is the response you're sending to AT, right? So now AT will play that welcoming message to the user and then will prompt them to record. So the customer will speak up to 60 seconds and then press the hash key. So over here we have said, when you finish, press hash. So the customer will press the hash key and then the callback is sent to your server for processing. So your server will download the audio from the recording URL and then now we'll connect to Gemini via WebSockets, then send the audio directly to Gemini, then expect a response. So if you are querying Gemini to ask it, let's say this is your customer care platform and your business is mostly, let's give let's use JTL. JTL is, say we use fiber. So fiber data bundles, in case you have depleted yours and you want to contact customer care or you have an issue. So your system basically is a system for, so in this context we are JTL, for example. So a customer will call your system querying about why has my data depleted, is your service down, why am I not accessing messages that I've bought airtime or I've bought data. So that same context. So our AI or our Gemini in this context will, so when a user is calling our service and they are querying that, is your service down, or what happens in case I don't receive my bundle or don't receive my SMS. So Gemini can query the context that you have provided. So you'll provide like a system prompt. So you will confine Gemini to restrict it to this certain criteria that you'll only focus on responding to Gemini to JTL context. So anything JTL, in case you don't have anything related to JTL, you can tell them we don't have this information, or maybe redirect them to like a human being. So that is that whole flow. You can proceed with that whole flow until your call ends. So over here, so that was turn 1. Turn 2 is now the AI responding. We have received the audio, send it to Gemini, and then we've received an audio back from Gemini, right? Then we'll play the audio from Gemini. So we'll use the same XML response, then use the play action now. So the first one was the say action, but now we are playing back audio from Gemini. So we'll play the audio, and then in case they have more issues or they have a different query regarding the response you have sent back, prompt them to record again, and then that same flow until the call ends, right? Or either the customer ends the call. Is that flow clear? Yes? Okay. So that's, I think he's clear with that flow. Anyone who has found an issue with that flow, I can explain something. So I think that's clear. So, okay, pros of this system. It's standard HTTP webhooks. It's easy to debug with Postman, so you can easily mock this request with Postman and test out if it's clear, is okay. There is clear request response flow. We'll handle the recordings for you, and then we'll just send it to your server for processing. It's cost effective. It's easy to develop and test because it's mostly request response. It's scalable, and then debugging, as I've said, it's easy. Then the issues I have with this approach, it's not real time. It's there's a lot of latency involved. So, give for example, you want to have like a interaction with your system, right? So if you are talking to an AI, you don't want to send a recording, then wait back for a response. It's not quite effective as talking to a normal being, right? So that's number one, latency. So it can take a while for turns, so like 2 to 4 seconds or even more, depending on maybe system load or how processing is happening. Then there is no interruption. Let's say your AI is responding and you are like, maybe wasn't satisfied with that response, so you can't interrupt it directly. So you'll have to wait for it to finish playing the audio for you to send back another recording. And then, so as I've said, this approach can be really frustrating for people because you're just waiting for it to finish, and then you're like, hey, my issue is not being resolved as I'd like. Can you take me to a human agent? So this is part of issues people have with such systems, but we'll see how you can improve on that. So user experience is not engaging because it's turn-based storage. You just need to set up your Google storage or S3. Then timeouts in case the maximum recording is more than 60 seconds, it can be a bit challenging. And then finally, cut off in case processing times exceed. I hope that number one approach was clear. Does anyone have any questions about approach number one? Or is it clear? Okay. So we look at how you can sort of improve this. So this was mostly, what is this best for, as I was saying? Simple MVPs. You want to validate your hypothesis, or you want to validate your prototype. If you're maybe doing a hackathon, you want to do it, bootstrap it really quick and fast. It's the best approach for that. It's not like a production-ready type of system, because you'll have more queries than answers from your customers now, because it will be more frustrating to them. But was it best for FAQ bots? So for FAQ bots is mostly you want to provide information to your customer, not responding to queries. So if they have an issue, just respond with a certain text. Then surveys and data collection. So you ask a question, expect back now a response. So this is not as engaging, so you have to wait for the response. Then when simplicity is greater than naturalness. So this is whereby you don't want, so you are quickly bootstrapping your system. You don't want it to be as engaging as much. So that's what is it best for. But now we look at how we can beef up our system, use more features, make it more engaging, make it more user-friendly. So now we look at approach number 2. This is, okay, where is it? Let me just, it's going to be. Okay. So now we are in approach number 2. So this is the call conferencing. I hope call conferencing was clear, because now we look at how call conferencing will work. So this is number 1. Customer will call the AT phone number that you have provided. We'll receive it on our gateway. So what will happen next? So we have your system over here. You will send a webhook to your system, then your system will respond back to us with a create a call conference. So we'll respond with a create a call conference. So we have the call conferencing feature. So now the call conferencing feature will create a call conference, and then where is it? Then we'll join your user or your customer as a participant, so without them knowing. So they'll join that call as a participant. Then the next step is we'll now start receiving audio from your user, right? So now you can start speaking freely, asking them the issues you can do. So let me just open up the documentation really quick. Explain it. So the call conferencing feature, you can put like a maximum number of participants. So for this case, you can have like 3, because it's either the customer, the AI, and maybe a human who can join in the call in case an issue is not resolved. You can put in some options like record is true, so that you can receive all the recording. So in case a user enters, you can either play a beep. By default, when they join the call, they are muted so that not to interrupt or it can be optional. You can either put it as false so that when they join, they can start speaking, start on enter, exit end on exit. All those options are documented over here. So what can you do in a call? So you can either mute a person, you can play audio, you can, so as you can see over here, so you can mute a person, you can play an audio in the same call, you can kick someone out, you can lock the call from adding more people, you can put people on hold, you can, this is to mute. Then what else? Okay. Well, basically just see that in action. Okay, let me just go back. So over here we've added the customers join the same call. Then we'll start receiving audio from the customer. Then over here we have your audio stream. Then we'll receive audio and then it will stream it to the service that you have over here. I want to reach to where Gemini is. So we'll receive the audio as input. Then we have your audio processing pipeline over here. So this is what you will set up on your end. Then when you receive the audio, then we'll send it directly to Gemini as but we were to add Gemini as a participant also. So over here we'll manage state and also add Gemini as a participant to the call. And then we'll stream back the same audio back to the user. So that same whole flow. Let me just show you again. We'll just cover it really quick. To now join the call as participant number 2. So is where your AI will join the call, or Gemini will join the call. Then now we'll enable bidirectional audio flow, whereby I can speak and Gemini can speak at the same time. I can interrupt and then I can pause, all of that. Then here, this basically we're just processing the audio. So Gemini can processes audio in real time. It can detect when the customer is speaking, and then when I stop, it can process the audio and then respond back. And then what else? Gemini can respond back to the user. Then that whole flow will continue simultaneously until the call ends. And then finally, when the call ends, you shut down gracefully. Then clean up all the resources that you have. That's option number 2. So it's a bit more complex than option 1. It's easier. It's straightforward. So for option 2, you don't have to convert it to text. So when Gemini joins the call, you can stream the audio directly to Gemini. Yes, that's actually correct. So option 1 is how our API is architected, but we are exploring more options on how to improve and make it better. So for option 1, so that whole process whereby you are sending audio, have to convert it to text and send it to Gemini, it's a bit tedious, but that's how currently the initial API is architected. So it wasn't, so before the now AI hype, it was actually working perfectly because it's, or you can send, call a customer care, receive the call, and then you can handle that call on their end, right? But now with the new age of AI, you want to, in case you have issues, you want to delegate them to like an agent or an AI agent to do the processing for you and to handle the issues for you without human intervention. That's now how we are trying to, using the current API, how do we plug into Gemini directly? So that was option 1. So option 2 was adding Gemini into the call as a participant. And then finally, we look at number 3, whereby we're now using SIP. So SIP, so when you sign up a platform or you want to use SIP, so you can either get a SIP trunk, set up your SIP server, and then now you can start streaming. So that one is currently supported. You can now start streaming audio direct to Gemini, and then Gemini can stream back audio directly to you. So that's the third approach, but it's a bit technical, but we'll look at it a bit and see how we can easily plug in. Yeah. Was it clear? Or was your question answered? Okay. So for that bit, we'll cover the AI bit on how you can either fine-tune or restrict to a certain criteria or a certain bucket, whereby it's going to respond to your knowledge base specifically. Yes, I think, is the mic around? You can pass it.
Hi, depending on the kind of industries this application is being used in, we know that AI responses are not 100% accurate and correct. There's many times that AI can even get lost on the way. Like we also see prompts. Prompts are text-based, but the way I see it here, it's when you're talking, what you're asking is a prompt. How do do you verify the information? Because this is like a real-time conversation. What verification processes can be in place in case if the AI gets off track a bit? How is that handled?
Perfect. That's a perfect question. So, number one, we look at audio sanitization and also audio validate and sanitize your input. So that's number one. And then number two is there are some checks that you put so before sending it directly to your AI or to Gemini. So there are a couple of libraries that you can easily use. So initially for text-based, but now for audio. So we'll have a way of how we intercept this audio and perform sanitizations or perform checks before sending it directly to the AI. So for that case, whereby when this information, so the question that we are trying to prompt or the question we are trying to ask the AI, we'll need a way of sanitizing that input. In case it's not within our bounded context, we can either reject it and then respond back to the user with either this is not a valid question or it's not, or we don't have context of the question you are trying to ask. And then, or in case they are quite insistent or persistent, we can now redirect them to a human agent. And then the agent will respond, will now talk to the actual, the person can now talk to an actual agent now. So those are the initial checks and balances we can put in case, for those cases whereby for inputs. But now for responses, so number one, we can first of all, as fine-tune or restrict it to a bounded context, whereby, let's say for a business-specific context, as I was putting, for example, we are a data company, or we sell bundles, or we sell whatever product that we sell. So any question that's supposed to, that our AI is supposed to respond is supposed to be restricted to a knowledge base. So we'll fine-tune or pre-train the AI based on our knowledge base, whereby we'll cover some few bits whereby you can, what is it called? Fine-tune Gemini with, so we'll cover some context on Vertex, whereby you can fine-tune the AI within a specific bounded context, and then now you can use that context to now. So when users are, what is it called? When users are when the AI is responding back to the user, so all the information that the AI is going to respond will be from within that context that you have restricted your AI to. So you can have like a knowledge base of your company. So that company does this specific business. Any information about the company is within that knowledge base, all the activities that the company does. In case there's, let's say, in case you don't, as I said, we are a data company for that example. So in case you don't receive a bundle, so you have that FAQ or that response that you can find. In case you don't receive a bundle, you can either call customer care or retry or check if your balance was depleted or in certain criteria. So that whole context or that whole knowledge base is whereby you fine-tune or extend or fine-tune your AI on. So in case of any question or restrict it to that bounded context. So in case there is any question, it can fetch the information within that, but there's those cases whereby it can still hallucinate. We'll still cover more on that on the call. Hopefully, in the next session, we'll cover on how, in case there is any hallucination involved, how is that mitigated or how is that handled, and then hopefully that will be much more clearer. Or have I answered your question? Perfect. Okay. So this was approach number 3. So it was now utilizing the SIP protocol. So for this case, it's more involving, but it's more real-time and it's more engaging. Customer over here, the customer will call that number that your business has been provided. So now, for your business, now it's handled within now a SIP trunk. So we'll send it to your SIP trunk. Then now for this case, you'll need to set up a free switch server. So a free switch server is whereby you can connect to free switch via SIP. And then on this other side, we have your media processing server. So this can be like a WebRTC processing server that's like Janus. So when processing WebRTC. So for this example, it's either SIP or WebRTC. Okay. So over here, we've received the call, initiated that connection. Then over here, we have our media processing. So on this other end, we have our application server, whereby we have like the session service, how you receive the events being received from WebSockets. And then on this other final end, we have our Gemini service. So it's pretty much straightforward as before. Receive the call from that end, and then finally connect to Gemini via WebSockets. And then we'll continue to process events as they happen. So that's where we have our state machine. So in case an event is triggered, do this, do that, until the audio is, or the call is completed. So over here we have that same audio encoder, whereby we receive the audio and then transfer it back to from our media server to the user's call. So for this approach, okay, let me try and find it. So a user will call that same number, and then we'll initiate a SIP connection to your server, and then now from your free switch, now authenticate. Now we'll create like a dial plan. We'll create a dial plan, then we allocate like those media resources for processing. Then we'll respond back to your application. Then your application will now connect to Gemini via WebSockets. Then that connection is now established. You can now have like a bidirectional communication. Speak to Gemini and it will respond back to you. So you have seen those examples whereby you can either talk to Gemini directly via the phone, and then so that is mostly via WebRTC and WebSockets. So to handle that connection to you, and you can speak and you can even interrupt the AI, and so you can interrupt it when in case you are like, hold on, I think that wasn't clear. It can now, and maybe it can now ask you, what do you mean, or what else do you need for it to provide like a clear response. So that whole process has been, we have established that. So now this one is true real time. So when I speak, I can, the AI will receive my audio in real time. So when I'm asking it a question, I'm able to receive a response immediately. So it feels, the pros about this, the conversation feels natural. It feels like talking to now a human being. So the initial one, we had like the turn-based approach whereby it was really frustrating, but this one has improved. And then now for another pro is that there's that natural interruption whereby I can interrupt the AI at any time. or it can detect when I stop speaking, and then it can respond. So like in those scenarios whereby I'm talking to someone on the call and they are like, I've either finished speaking and then I'll wait for their response. Then there is the best user experience. Then full duplex is that both parties can speak at the same time. And then overlapping speech is handled. And then this is production ready. So it's reliable because of the SIP protocol and the SIP connection. And then it has the, so this service can now piggyback on all other Africa stocking services or other Africa stocking collections. So you can either do like call transferring, you can even introduce call conferencing within this same approach of SIP connection. And then there's that called recording, and also there's advanced routing. So there's some few caveats over here. Yeah, because not all approaches are simple. So what are the cons? So it's a bit complex because you need knowledge on how to set up a SIP server. So that's either Asterisk or free switch. So there's that knowledge or requirements on how audio flows from the telco. So like how do you set up dial plans? So all of these are mostly related with free switch. How do you set up those dial plans? How do you, all those telco knowledge, you can read documentation on free switch and understand it. But the initial learning curve is a bit steep, but it's not as steep, you can progress. Debugging is a bit challenging because there are multiple touch points, points of failure. So in case one fails, unless you have proper logging and monitoring, it will be a bit difficult. Development, so you need to understand that whole process for you to build this system. So that, as I've said, there's a steep learning curve from understanding the telco-specific domain knowledge and also SIP knowledge. And then operational complexity, and then debugging, costs, and also some cases where, in case you don't want to manage these services for yourself, you can outsource them. So there are companies that offer those like free switch services and all of those. So you can either be vendor locked for some cases, but it's not always. Okay, so but for this approach, we'll focus mostly on approach number 1, for you to mostly get started and quickly bootstrap your applications. And then in case you want, you can build on top of that until you reach to either the SIP connections or either the call conferencing connections. So as I said, the process is quite clear. User will call the AT voice number, will send the webhook, you receive the XML, you receive the webhook, then respond back with an XML, then we'll send the greeting to the user, and then ask them to provide the audio or to provide the issue that you want, record the audio, send it to your backend, then download the audio, send it to Gemini, then expect back a response from Gemini, and then send it back as an XML. So, and then we'll wait back for the AI response. Then that whole loop will continue until this call has been terminated. That's pretty much the whole idea of option number 1. You can see how clear it is, like it's quite clear. Call, that whole process has been easily documented. So, and then here's some few component breakdowns. So we have the webhooks. For voice, you can receive the webhook for voice events and the webhooks for callback events. Then over here we have the session manager, maintains conversational history, then tracks user context. So in case they were speaking about something, and then you can easily retain back the context that they were mentioning. Then AI integration, we saw that for Gemini and then Africa stocking. So for Africa stocking, we are only using voice and SMS. So we're using the play actions, the say actions, the record, and the dial actions. And then for SMS, it's pretty much mostly for sending. Then the SMS flow, in case for the same example, we have the user. So this is the same customer care example. So we can have like a two-way SMS number. So the user can dial help, and then the AI will respond back with options that they can choose, or you can respond back with issues or questions or inputs that they can put. So they'll send a message. So we'll receive that message. Then, so you receive the message on your backend using webhooks. Then over here we have Gemini. We'll get the text from that webhook, send it to Gemini. Then we'll receive a response. Then we'll chunk it. So because it can be like a huge response, we'll need a way of chunking it to be manageable text chunks. Then send back the AI response to the user. You can see how it can be easily used. So in case the voice service is not working, you can use this SMS service as a buffer or a backup in case your service, your voice service is not working. Then the key differences is that number one, it's asynchronous. Hope all of you know like what asynchronous and synchronous means. So for asynchronous means that I can send a request and I don't have to wait. So when it finishes processing, I can get back my response. So I don't require like an immediate response. So that's whereby like webhooks come in. So I can send a query, and when you finish processing and so you can send me back a response when you're done. So I don't have to wait for it. So it can handle longer processing times. So sometimes your issue can be complex and it might need to gather multiple contexts from different places to construct your response. So I don't have to keep waiting. I can just send a text and then expect my response later. So it doesn't have to be immediate like a voice call, because for voice you're there on the call. So when you're calling someone, you need a response immediately, because when you're texting your friend, they can be like, maybe I'll wait for their response whenever they want to respond back to me. Yeah. And then it's easier to implement, because if you work with two SMS, so when I send a text, I just wait for a response. And then, so now for rich text formatting, it's a bit limited because it's mostly text-based. Hope that covers the whole architecture flow. So we've covered how to design voice in 3 different ways, and then for SMS, it's pretty much straightforward. Does anyone have a question about how SMS works for this case? It's clear. If it's clear, you can raise your hand and then I can see if everyone has gotten information on that. It's clear? Or do you have a question? Yes. You can use them simultaneously. So how API works, as long as you have resources attached to your account and you know how to combine them. So since it's agnostic, you can combine them together. So in case like for example, for a voice, so if the response was a bit huge or it was delayed, or maybe the session terminated, so you can get notified when the session has terminated and the user hasn't received the input, the response, you can send it back to the user as a text, for example. Right? Awesome. So I'll quickly, okay.
Anasikika. Sasa I want to get you back to start showing it again, but sometimes we want context when working with AI. With AI, like ChatGPT, you can come like a week later, you revisit the chat, then you continue the conversation. Now, we want the voice AI, the voicing part, to grasp the concept, the context. Want to grasp the concept. Is it possible with the system?
Yes, it is. As I said, it's dynamic. The process is very much dynamic. So, when I was showing the breakdown on this design over here, hopefully it's clear. So on this architecture over here, so we have this data layer. So for this data layer, so you can, so there are these RAG systems. So for RAG systems is whereby you can be receiving context from a user and then saving it. So in case the user calls back again, so you can now, so like for those vector databases, so you can now connect that same user's context to, so in case a user has a similar issue, so you can easily retrieve because you are persisting user information on your DBs, you can also persist the responses from your AI, and then also tag them with the user's either phone number or user's ID. So in case the user calls back again, you can use that same information to build the, what's it called? The query that you are sending to the AI. So you can combine the previous context and the same user's context. So when you are sending it back to the AI, it can have a more richer context. So while responding back to the user, it can combine both those two responses and then provide like a much more accurate response to the user. Yeah. But as you see over here, we have our data layer whereby we'll persist most of this information. And then in case you have that continuous CI/CD pipeline and you are continuously building, you can combine either those audio recordings and enrich your model to make it much more, to have like a richer context in case a user's issue has been resolved in the past. Now much newer knowledge has been added onto it, and then issues can be resolved much more faster. Yeah. Is that clear? Nice. A question?
Yes, my question is, when I want to use the AI to help me like send the bulk SMS, the voice, like do I have to purchase a whole package for all of that, or the SMS has its own purchase and the others their own purchase? Yeah.
Okay, nice question. So for our services, so it depends on what service you want to use. So that's the only service you purchase. So when you go to like on the dashboard over here, so you can see the only service I have available is my voice number over here. So when you look at SMS, currently on my shortcodes, I don't have any shortcodes. So, because I don't require anything from shortcodes. So, in case your business context, so this is specific to your business. So, if your business requires for you to have like a phone number, it requires for you to have like a sender ID to send messages to your user, or it requires for you to have like a shortcode in case you want to receive surveys or you want to receive text input from your users. So you can make purchases from each. So it's quite easy. Just go to product request, then submit a request. So all of this is pretty much straightforward. If you want a sender ID, pick a sender ID. If you want a SMS shortcode, there it is. Premium SMS, USSD service code, airtime, mobile data. You can combine them as much as you feel like. Yeah. Is it okay? Nice. Any other question before we quickly proceed?
What is the experience like in difference between the conference, that is your voice option and
So for number 2 and number 3, so for number 2, there is still a bit of lag and latency because of how it will still piggyback to the sending the voice and receiving back the response. But now, if you put in like an audio encoder and decoder within the same context for Gemini and connect to it via WebSockets, the audio stream will be a bit clearer, or the responses will come much more faster. But for the case for SIP, since you're receiving the call, you're streaming directly from the call to Gemini, it's much more real time. So in terms of experience, for user experience, it's much more richer for SIP connections as compared to call conferencing. But the lag or the latency? Yes. Yes. Okay. These ones. You have signed up. Have you verified your email? So if you have clicked on verify your email, you'll have this. Because if you go to your Africa Stocking account, so quickly, so do you have this? You come and create your team. So when you create your team, let's say for this example of mine here, for my voice example, this is my layout now. When I just click on it. So any product that you have, you will see it that same way. So it's not different. So it doesn't have to be purchased. So the same experience, if I go back here, if I go to the Sandbox, so it's the same. So when I go to my Sandbox app, same experience. So you have to create first a team, then create an app. Then you can add multiple. If you're working with multiple people, you can add them to your team. Yeah. Okay. So as we quickly wind up, because we have seen how we architecture our system, so we'll quickly cover some few best practices. So maybe you can mention for me some of the best practices you employ when building out your systems. Pardon? Okay, that's one. Another best practice for your system that you use while building out your system? Role-based access, nice. Another one? Best practices for security best practices. Yes, correct. Another best practice? Yes, nice. Pardon? Self-awareness. Oh, nice. I haven't used that one. A lady? Pardon? Data encryption, correct, yeah. Secure passwords, OTP, nice. So those are part of best practices when it comes to security. So, but for this case, we'll be focusing on the same context of Google and Gemini and Africa stocking. So number one is authentication and authorization. As they have said, role-based access. The other one was context awareness. So all of this part of authorization mechanisms. So there is authentication and authorization. So for authorization is whereby you grant access to specific parts of the system depending on either the role or either context awareness. Then for authentication, so over here, so let's say for this example of mine, so we have like API keys. How best do we store them? So we can either use like environment variables, or we can use Google Secret Key Manager and just pull all these credentials from our Google account. So over here we are mostly importing the service, then just pulling all these credentials. Then number two, as you have said, environment-based configuration. So for you don't want to leak your API keys and your passwords on your GitHub account. So use gitignore, and the best practice is use environment variables. So let's say, for example, this security webhook secret, you can see I've added it over here, but I'm pulling it from an environment variable. So just to ensure that I do not leak my credentials when publishing it to either my GitHub. So even for my Africa stocking, so never publish your API key, never. People can get access to it, then get access to your resources. Mostly they can either send malicious messages to your users or to different users. So that's a safety precaution. Your username, your Google Cloud, your project ID. So when you use Google Cloud, you will create a project. You can assign it to your project ID. And then your Gemini. So if you didn't get access to your Gemini key, just go to aistudio.com. This is how it looks. So when you sign up, you can create your key over here on your API keys. So you can see mine is AT Google AI project. You can see all your billing. So in case you got the, what's it called? Did you get the credits? So the link was shared. Click on it, then you will get access to your credits. Then, so if you want to view all your billing and information, just go to your account. But for your API key, just come here, generate one, and then copy it and use it for later use. Then, as I said, input validation and sanitization. So all inputs that are coming from the users, you need to ensure that they are valid, and for some cases whereby you are sending sensitive information. You can sanitize your text in case people are inputting like scripts or malicious texts. You can remove them just to make your life much more easier. Webhook validation. So you want to validate that the information you are receiving from your webhook is valid. You can validate that so that you don't want to end up processing information that wasn't complete. Another best security practice is rate limiting and DDoS protection. So limit the number of requests that speak from your service. You need to encrypt it. So you can look at this example over here. So converting it to HTTPS, use security CRT certificates, ensure that they are well encoded. So that's how you convert it to use HTTPS. Then finally, we have covered the same building out the architecture over there up. Then over here, so this is pretty much examples on how that same system works. So you look at this code lab. So over here we can see, and also it will link. So if you look at it somewhere in the intro, you'll find a link to the GitHub. So it's this one. So you can look at it. It has examples on how you, what is it called? You can build out your system for voice and SMS and combine it with Gemini. Over here we have our services. So you can look at our Africa Stocking service. And then you can look at our Gemini service. How do we handle transcription of our audio? How do we download audio from a URL? How do we transcribe that? And then we can look how we are talking to Gemini. So over here we're using Gemini Pro. So select the model, add your API key. All of that has been well documented over here. And then that is mostly the link to this. So these examples are mostly just showcasing that. Where are we? Mostly it just shows you or just explains what is happening over there. So over here we have a call session actor. This is what does the processing the call, how it sends it to Gemini and how it receives it back from Gemini. Then you have a call supervisor, basically just maintains our this service that we have, a call session actor. Then we have our webhook integration. So this is the URL that you put in on the AT dashboard. So you have the webhooks/voice/events. Then for the callback, we have webhooks voice/callback. So when you receive a call, then you process it as you intended. Then this is the part of the XML that I was mentioning. So you can look at our documentation and look at the different call actions. Okay. Look at different call actions. So if you want to have like a say action, you can convert it over here. If you want to combine multiple, you can have like a say and a record action. You can do that. And then if you want to have like a call transfer, you can also do that. And then for Gemini integration, how we transcribe, and then that whole process has been well documented over here. Then that context awareness in the same conversation. Here it is. Then test out your voice application. So for now you can use NGRock, but for the next subsequent events, you can now start using callback as a service or using marketplace and put your application there, and then you'll get a URL for your application. Then you can have your unit tests, so ensure that you write tests for your system to ensure that it's working effectively. The same case for your SMS architecture. User sends a message, receive it, process it with your webbook, send it to Gemini. That same process has been well documented over here. These are just code examples of the repo. You can just look at them. Then handling long messages is whereby I was saying you can either send a long message, or if you want to have like a better user experience, you can split the message into chunks. And then finally, we have API versioning. So we have architected our system, we have built it out, then we need to ensure that we have proper versioning and lifecycle management in case we want to have like long-term support or short-term support. This just expands on that. How do people version their URLs? API versioning, it can be URL or header-based. All these examples are well mentioned. Then finally, for deployments, so for this, we'll mostly focus on like Google Cloud Run or whichever deployment platform that you use. Which deployment platform do you usually use? So you can mention a few. Vercel, that's mostly for Next.js applications. Another one. Pardon? Netlify. Netlify. I haven't checked it out, but I'll look at it. Another one. Hosting platform, which one do you usually use, guys? Has anyone used Google Cloud Run or GCP? Okay, so just tuning into our modules. Most of these have already been showcased. So we have a whole playlist on YouTube whereby most of these have been, as we have different trainers, GDEs, they have showcased how you can do that. So you can just check out our YouTube and then you will find those examples over there. So over here we have a cloud deployment. For these examples, you're using Google Cloud Run. Has anyone used Docker? Docker, amazing. We have good people over here. Always Dockerize your application, please, 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 please. So I said it, Dockerize your applications. Just learn how to use Docker. So you need a way of building out your systems or deploying it easily. Docker is the best option. Dockerize your application. Over here we have a build configuration, then our deployment script. So when you build out your Docker image, then we just deploy it to GCP using a script easily. Then we configure auto-scaling. So I have a question for you guys. So what happens for your system in case you have like an influx of users trying to access your system? How do you handle that? Let's say, for example, you have an influx of users trying to access your system. Hypothetically, how do you handle that? Pardon? Tricky. Why? Let's say you have resources. How do you do that? Reallocation. Another one. Okay, so I have an example over here. We have auto-scaling. So auto-scaling, this is whereby, so as I've said, use Docker. When you Dockerize your application, you now have ability of running multiple instances of your application easily. This is where auto-scaling comes in. So you have your instance that's running. Say, for example, you have your load balance and everything. So if there are multiple users trying to access your application, say it can split the load. And if you have a single pod, it can increase the number of pods to either 2, 3, 4, and load balance that and ensure that your resources are being distributed effectively, and users will continue having the best experience. This is where auto-scaling comes in. It's part of the deployments. And then application level scaling. And then you have to do load testing. You usually do like, so in case you want to know if your system can handle different spikes or different loads, you can do load testing with K6 or use Gatling. So there are different services you can use to perform load testing on your system, ensure that it's able to handle load. So you can see over here, we are trying to send multiple incoming SMS requests to this system to see if it's able to handle the number of requests being sent to it. And then finally, you have to create a CI/CD pipeline. So the CI/CD pipeline, does anyone know CI/CD? What's the meaning of CI/CD? Yes? Amazing. Continuous integration, continuous deployment. So you are continuously adding new features to your system. You need to deploy them to your users, right? How do you do that? Set up a CI/CD pipeline in case you have new features, you want to get them to ship to your users. So that's where, as I was saying, all of this tie back together is Docker. So in case you have a new build, it will easily pick up your new build, send it to your cloud service, and then deploy it immediately. You can see the steps are already documented over here. So for these examples, does anyone use GitHub Actions? A few hands. Bitbucket pipelines. Or which CI/CD do you usually use? Different examples. Pardon? GitLab. Yes, that's another one. So there are different CI/CD pipelines that you can use. We have seen GitHub Actions, we have Bitbucket pipelines, we have Jenkins. There are a couple more dependent on which service you use. Or so let's say, for example, Bitbucket pipelines can be like a paid service. GitHub Actions is maybe like a free service, whereby they'll allocate resources depending on how you use them. So that's how you use CI/CD to continuously add new features and deploy them to your users. So as I've said, you can use, so this example showcases GitHub Actions, but you can use any other service that you want. Most of them are well documented and well explained, so you can easily plug them to the application that you are building. Then finally, as we wind up, this is, you have done all of that. You have built out your system, you have deployed it. What's next? You need to ensure that you're able to monitor how people are accessing your system. In case, as I said, in case there was like a spike in load, when did it occur, and how do you know that? Because you have monitoring. You can easily look at the traffic and find this whereby users were hammering my system at this particular time, and know how you can easily optimize. So if you don't monitor or pinpoint certain areas in your system, you can't know where to optimize or where to improve on. So that's where monitoring, logging, and comes in. So you can look at some of these examples. For logging, you can create your logging configuration or using logback. So if you use like Java or Scala or any JVM language, you can use logback. Then Prometheus for pulling in metrics from your system. You can create them. So if you want to receive how many number of calls people are, the number of calls, you can create a metric for that. What's the call duration? You can create a metric for that. So this will help you analyze and optimize your system for certain cases. How many active calls, so you can easily know how many people are currently communicating with your AI service. How many Gemini AI API calls are you sending? So in case you want to know, have I depleted my number of requests, or have I depleted my tokens? And then you can easily even monitor Gemini API latency from when you send a request to Gemini until when it responds back. Then you can also have metrics for like how many SMSs have you sent, create metrics for that. Then you can also export your default JVM metrics. And then you can have like an endpoint that you can use for like an external service like Grafana or any other service that you want. And then have health checks. So to ensure that your system is always, so in case you want to know if your system is up or down, send a request to your health check and confirm that. Then finally, this is a configuration for your Grafana and your Prometheus metrics alerts. Then finally, as we conclude, you have to have a production checklist. So number one, ensure that your API keys are well secured and stored. So use a secure service or put them in an environment variable and never publish it to GitHub. Ensure that you have a gitignore file on your repo and ensure that you have put environment.env as part of them. Ensure that your traffic is HTTPS. Ensure that you have rate limiting enabled, and also ensure that your inputs and your endpoints are well protected. And then finally, webhook signature verification. Don't process any webhook that is not verified and that's not accurate. So that's webhook signature verification. Use MHSA, whichever technique you can do AP whitelisting. Those are different techniques that you can use. Monitoring, as I've said, Prometheus, Grafana, set up those alerts, run books for common issues. Performance, do load testing, auto-scaling configuration, DB indexes, optimization, have your different caching strategies for frequently accessed resources or frequently accessed services, or those columns, you can easily cache those. Configure for a CDN for different zones or different locations. For reliability, ensure that your health checks are working. You can do those periodically, so you can do like 5 minutes, 10 minutes intervals, so to continuously monitor the health of your system. Graceful shutdown. When you're shutting it down, ensure that you close all your DB connections, close out all those external resources that you're using. Circuit breaking, so in case you are using external services, so in case it's failing, so if you retry a couple of times and no response is coming, you can close out those connections or increase the backoff. So that's where retrying comes in. So in case a service is failing, you can retry it, but now retry with exponential backoff, that's jitter. So in case you're retrying a service multiple times and it's failing, increase the retry period. So if it was 5 minutes, it fails, increase it to 10 minutes and continue and increase that back off. So until maybe it reaches like 15 minutes and then finally have like a dead letter queue. So in case messages are failing or those retries are failed, have a way of triggering them manually, or either if something is failing, you can either edit it and retry it manually. Then for compliance, this has always been mentioned in different places. GDPR, ensure that you follow all the data retention and data compliance policies. Call recording, ensure that if you're recording someone on a call, ensure that you have consent. You don't want to be sued by someone. You also that article recently where someone sued a person for recording them without their consent on Google Meets. Or I don't know, can't remember it was which platform. PII encryption, your personal information. So ensure that you encrypt this information. Don't store them on your DB without encrypting them. People can access your DB and just get away with your data. Audit, logging, ensure that you log those requests that people are performing on your system. Then finally, terms of service and privacy policy publishing. Yes, and then we have come to the end of this. Congratulations for getting to this point. So what have we learned? So we have covered how we can easily design these multi-channel AI applications. You can combine SMS, voice, and AI. Then how we integrate Google Gemini for NLP. And then how we can perform security and compliance checks, how we can do versioning, and then how we can deploy to Google Cloud with auto. So join our community if you haven't joined already. Check out our resources over here, Africa Stocking documentation, Scala and Java, check it out. Cloud Run documentation, also over here. Then Prometheus best practices, check it over here. So if you have any issues or if you have any questions, feel free to raise up your hand or ask. Then have a good time building and have an awesome afternoon. And thank you guys. I think I've taken much more of your time, guys, but hopefully you have learned a lot. Or if you have any question, feel free to raise your hand and we can pass around the mic. Thank you, and really appreciate your time. I will hand over to MK. Yes. Let's welcome MK.
Give it up to MK. Thank you so much. How is the session so far? So far, so good, all right? I can see you guys, it's about 2:15. So we just break for lunch for like 20 minutes exactly, or thereabouts. Please cooperate, just grab your lunch, maybe move your laptop a bit and have your lunch, because the spaces will not be enough for all of us to move on that side. And then we will resume at around 2:40, all right? Is that all right? Can we agree? Yes. The lunch is ready.
the big man.
Link come the thing them call the broken heart. This blessed love will never part. They don't know it from the start. I tell them say I'm dirty yet. A Sean Paul and Sasha, come sing for them, baby.
Girl, you make me holler, girl, you make me sweat. I can't get your tenderness. Still I can't get you off my mind. When
I don't say dirty love.
I'm still in love.
Unasikia huko? Let me proceed to share my brief, then we can immediately get started. But yes, give the hellos. I want to see the to ensure the energy, the energy. Give them the hellos. Meet yourself. Try to find a way to share. Let's bring the thing. Trying to share my screen and leave the screen. That makes sense. Fantastic. Hello. Yes, you guys, hello from Tanzania. Wow. Good to see you guys. I hope you're safe. Genuinely. I hope you're doing well. Glad that you are back online. Tirani, missed you guys. Hello. Fantastic. Love the energy. So we're going to get started. For this particular session, we'll be going through advanced African Starting APIs and introduction to Google Generative AI. It's going to be an introductory session. It's going to be very fast, so bear with us. A bit fast for some of these questions, but again, rules remain the same. You can always ask at any point, raise a hand, unmute, type in the chat, and I'll get to it when I am still presenting at some point. And I'm here with my co-trainer, Douglas Mwangi, Daki over there. Say hi. Yes, there he is. So we'll be taking you through this session together. That being said, let us get started. Google. No. Can I make it full screen? Without... Anyway, we'll just have to work with it as is. So this is what we have covered so far. This is your first time here. We've covered in module 1 to 3. This is module 4, a series of mini modules that is a collaboration between Africa Stocking and Google Cloud, where we're taking you through a series where we use Google Cloud. Generative AIs and Africa Stocking APIs to implement 2G and AI solutions together. So we're taking you through the process of setting up what the different APIs entail, how to integrate with the cloud, how to build particular applications, and it all culminate in a capstone project that will integrate everything we've learned so far. So that's all we are doing here. In case you are wondering, what we have done so far is we've been able to set up your account with the Google Developer Profile, built a web app with Firebase, we've understood what APIs are, API fundamentals, API authentication with Collab, we've done SMS and airtime for the Africa's Stocking APIs, AT means Africa's Stocking, in case you see it on the slide and it's not here. And we've seen how to read and secure API responsibly. So now we're going a bit deeper with this today. We're going to find first our setup links and resources, where I want to mention a few things on that, and then we'll get started picking up right from airtime API. So far, that's good. Allow me to touch on a few things. I will first share the chat. Okay, guys, bear with me when I go out of slideshow. I don't know why today it doesn't want to show slideshow when I'm at home. But I have just a link in the chat, particularly to a link tree. I will proceed to share screen just so that I can explain so that I can explain what this particular link entails. This link is important because it has most, if not all, the added of the links that you need for this particular program. So we're starting with just the plain registration link. Registration link. If you haven't registered, this is your cue. Just fill that out and then you'll be able to access it. Create your Google developer profile, which I've spoken about, we've already covered. Google Cloud, Google Cloud credit. Yes, Google still having challenges with the Google Cloud credit. If you're not able to this for a link so that you can get credit grants on this workshop. We are following up on that. So apologies, that is on our part. We'll be following up on credit. In the meantime, for upskill setting APIs, you can always use Sandbox, which is free. For Google Cloud, try and look for models that run without like run for free. Just as we wait, but we'll get it sorted as soon as possible. And then we have a link here where you can create your account for upskill stocking. There is the Google program resources request form, allowing you to get back this resources request form in a few. Then there's the badge submission. If you have covered any module, done any module successfully on the cloud skills platforms, you will receive a valuable badge or a link to a badge. This form is filling the module to completion. Yes, will be legible for any time. Yes, so we want to see how to complete the module. You might get something very nice. So ensure you do this one because it has been highly forgotten. Because people have quickly completed the module, people can even submit when they're done. Just submit your link to the module that you completed. This is the Slack channel. Welcome to join our Slack channel where you can access, engage with us, follow up. This is the third module that we did last time. The link to that particular notebook so that you can run it on your own and go through the steps. This is the module we're doing today, an advanced APIs and introduction to Gemini API notebook. So this is what we'll be covering today, again, for you to be able to go through on your own. This is a feature module. Get ready. This is a feature module that we'll be covering that will have building, securing, and deploying aspects of APIs. So back to this resources request form. This particular link is when you're accessing Africa's APIs, you need to have some of them activated on the back end for you. It doesn't have automatically done. And some of you have been sending me requests again, slight delays and slight delays, but later we'll be able to send it. However, on Sandbox this works, which is why I would like to share this particular aspect to show you that you can access your Sandbox on your account. Thank you. Dear people, responding in the chat and everything so that